General, welcome home. We know that Queen Elizabeth talked about seeing Canada as home. And while Canadians certainly have a relationship with Charles, this is 20th visit, the relationship with him as king is being cemented here. I think it's interesting to think, too, about how this moment has the potential from the royal perspective to help solidify some Canadians' relationship with the monarchy. It is an institution that can feel distant for some Canadians, and at this time that is described even today by Prime Minister Mark Carney as a time of crises, Canadians have been wondering who in the world has their back, and so part of this visit is the message. The King of Canada perhaps has, well, not perhaps, the stated message is that the King of Canada has Canadians' backs, even if he might not say it in quite such explicit language. It is the subtext of everything that will happen over the next 24 hours.
Indeed. I was thinking about those students you were referencing as well, and it's Pierre Elliott Trudeau Elementary School and École Secondaire Catholique Garneau in Orleans and Sacred Heart Catholic High School in Stittsville, Ontario. And to be part of the Duke of Edinburgh Awards at the time, they've been around forever, is kind of a life-changing experience for a lot of these students. Wouldn't you say, Carolyn, that it sort of forms huge relationships for them?
Yes, this was a program that the late Prince Philip designed so that students would be able to design their own outdoor expeditions that they would plan themselves. So leadership skills, outdoor skills, appreciation for the natural world, all came out of the Duke of Edinburgh's award program. And now we see King Charles III's younger brother, Prince Edward, who's the new Duke of Edinburgh, who often travels, including to Canada, to award those Duke of Edinburgh awards that these students have worked so hard for.
It's fantastic. It's interesting the different perspectives that you get. It looks like these nice intimate meetings until the shot gets wider and reverses, and you realize it looks also a little bit like some organized chaos there, but organized it is, absolutely. And Catherine, once the king has met everyone, so where is he heading to now? What is the plan as you understand it?
The next thing on the agenda would be the visit to Lansdowne, where he's expected to go and see a farmer's market. He'll also be taking part seeing a street hockey demonstration. The big burning question, Adrian, and there may be an answer to this, but I don't know yet. Is it a ball drop or a puck drop?
Oh, this is important.
We will have to wait and see, but I believe he may be involved in the ceremonial puck drop there. Again, the idea here, yes, certainly some of this might speak to some of the interests of the king, the local farmers markets. We know he has an interest in local and organic produce, but also just an opportunity to interact with Canadians. It is, again, a brief visit. He will not be leaving the confines of Ottawa, but it is an opportunity to meet with some of the people in the city. From there, from Lansdowne, he will continue on to Rideau Hall, where we have the ceremonial tree planting. He will also have an audience with the Governor General as well as the Prime Minister, meet with other dignitaries, and Camilla will be sworn in as a member of the King's Privy Council of Canada, which will allow her to officially give him advice in his role as King of Canada. So a busy day, full of meetings, full of interactions with at least some Canadians. And then, of course, the real centerpiece of all of this takes place tomorrow when he reads the speech from the throne, putting forward the government's priorities for the upcoming parliamentary session.
Indeed, and as you just saw the king get into that blue BMW there, sort of along the theme of nothing is accidental, no detail is left to chance. That's an electric vehicle, according to our folks on the ground there who've been chatting with security, and you can see the king's standard while he is in Canada that is flying on the vehicle there. That flag, we see the maple leafs on the bottom. What else is the story of that flag?
Well, that flag is distinctive to King Charles III's role as King of Canada. And over the course of the tour, we're going to be seeing a lot of that kind of symbolism. And it comes out of the time of the Statute of Westminster in 1931, when the distinctive Canadian crown was developed, and Canada developed control over its own foreign policy. So we start seeing that those distinctive emblems of the Canadian crown that date from that time and became quite well known at the time of the 1939 royal tour.
Indeed. Okay. So as we see the King's convoy leave the Ottawa airport, Catherine Cullen is going to do some hopscotching of her own to get to Rideau Hall. So one last thought from you, my friend, before you head off to Rideau Hall, about your sense of what you just saw, or what we're about to see as well.
Yeah, I would just say, Adrian, it has begun, and there will be so much reading of symbols of each of these interactions, of the messages sent. But I do think it is, again, an opportunity for Canadians to think a little bit about their institutions, what makes our country distinct. We're going to see that on display over the course of the next 24 hours. And if it is an opportunity for some Canadians to think a bit more about what it means to be Canadian, then that's something we can all benefit from, political colors aside.
And your plan, Catherine, for you are the plan for the King is Lansdowne Park. This is his next stop, if you will. But you are heading to Rideau Hall, correct?
That's right, and I'll be speaking to you from there, where we will see, as I was saying earlier, the ceremonial tree planting, meeting with various dignitaries and whatnot. So you're not done with me yet, Adrian. I'll see who else
we don't ever want to be done with you.
Shout a few questions at.
Careful, don't cause an international incident, but by all means.
I'll do my best.
Yes, okay, thank you very much. That's Catherine Cullen, who's been at the all right, who's been at the airport with us, and as you just heard her there, she is off to Rideau Hall. Let's just watch here as the Royal Canadian Dragoons leave.
Help you old ladies. They're very sweet. Have a great day, sir.
All right, so the King has now left. That was Governor General Mary Simon, her husband Whit Fraser, who were in that first vehicle you see there. They're about to be moving off shortly as well to join the King and the Queen for the rest of their visit. This is not going to be a long day. That's a relative term. They did just fly from London, but it's not going to be a particularly long day for the King and Queen. Their official events will be done by early evening. They have an early morning tomorrow, and of course, they'll be flying back to the UK tomorrow night. Carolyn, this is you do this with intentionality, a visit like this.
Yes, as Prince of Wales, King Charles III was famous for not even eating lunch to make sure he could get as many public engagements into each day as possible. So even the shortest royal tours involve multiple stops, meeting numerous people, and having all of those opportunities to forge connections with people from all walks of life. And we're seeing that here in Canada.
And just a reminder, we have said it, but it's worth reminding people, none of this is the King's idea. None of this comes from a suggestion from Buckingham Palace. This sort of visit can only happen at the invitation of the Prime Minister. And the speech that you will hear tomorrow, the throne speech, will not be the words of King Charles. It'll be the words of the government. He really has no say in that speech itself. It's the act of him reading it, the imagery of him being here that is what speaks volumes. That's the loud part of this trip. But in terms of his words, don't expect to hear personal opinions on anything. I mean, we will of course be listening for any interactions we can. We will be speaking with people who've met him. We're about to speak with Lila Graham, the young woman who delivered the flowers. But if people are expecting a very loud statement from the King, that's not going to come.
Mm-hmm. He's a constitutional monarch, and he acts on the advice of his prime minister in Canada. And of course, when he's in the United Kingdom and the other Commonwealth realms, he acts on the advice of the prime ministers there. So he is head of state rather than head of government, which is the role of the prime minister.
Indeed. Well, thank goodness for sunny days and kind temperatures. These are the little things that are big things on a visit like this one. Why don't we bring in Nathan Obed now, the president of the ITK, which is an organization that does outreach and advocacy for Inuit. He was right there on the tarmac welcoming the King and Queen. Thank you so much for joining us. We were watching you there, craning to see if we could listen. What was that welcome like for you?
Well, it was really good to see the King. He's had some health issues and since our last visit, so I was able to just convey my well wishes to Canada. I said Tungasugit, so welcome, and also just said great to see him again. He mentioned that it's already been 2 years since our last meeting, so and we talked about looking forward to having a sit down later this afternoon. It was nice to be able to greet him and also to greet Queen Camilla as well.
That's fantastic. Does it sometimes surprise you when he knows details quite that precise?
Well, he's got a great team, and I'm sure that he's been briefed extensively. But I do have a little bit of an inside in that the Governor General, Mary Simon, is somebody that I've known my whole life, and between her and Whit, I'm sure that I've been mentioned a couple of times when perhaps in other cases I wouldn't.
Indeed, job done. Well done, you. Can we talk about your meeting with the King ahead of his coronation? Can you take us to Buckingham Palace and tell us what those interactions were like there?
Well, at the time, it seemed like a really exceptional moment to be able to put reconciliation and Indigenous peoples' issues at the very front of the King's new agenda. And he's pledged to work on reconciliation. He's somebody that's been an advocate for climate change. And so to be able to be there around coronation and talk about what that might look like and put the positions that Inuit have forward was a remarkable opportunity that we had. We still think of it the same way in that the relationship with the King and with the Crown is not only practical through our treaties and our association with Canada as a nation state, but it also is ambitious in that we can look forward and imagine doing more together.
Well, let's talk about the forward. I mean, he's made a point as Prince visiting the North, visiting with Inuit, First Nations, Métis people. That relationship, what do you see it looking like in the future?
Well, the last time I had an audience with the King, we talked about repatriation, and in museums across the United Kingdom, there still are Inuit human remains and other items that we would like to see repatriated. And we understand that he doesn't have the authority to ensure that these things happen, but he has a convening power. and we're hoping to work with him and with his office to ensure that we can convene those spaces to talk about repatriation. Also, a lot of what the Governor General does here in Canada and what the King does is celebrate excellence, or to introduce important concepts to the world. So we're hoping to work with the King moving forward on the items like climate change and issues like the Arctic, and of course the work that still is to come on reconciliation writ large. It is worthy of noting that there's only the Canadian Arctic as an Arctic region of the Commonwealth, and I'll impress that upon that to him again today to talk about the importance of Canada and Inuit Nunangat, the Inuit homeland, within the Commonwealth itself.
Indeed. Nathan Obed, thank you very much for talking to us at the edge of the tarmac there. Looking forward to seeing you later on today as well. Thank you.
Yeah, always great to chat, Adrian.
Take care. So we want to take you over to Lansdowne Park now. There they are. There are the hockey players waiting for the King to drop the puck. I feel like it's going to be he drops a ball, not a puck, but I could be wrong. I might put my pennies on that. But I do want to connect you with someone who is there for us, someone who is very familiar to audiences in Ottawa, and a good friend of ours, Omar Debegi Pacheco. Omar, it's always great to see you. You've got a pretty good view there, my friend.
I do, and it's interesting because in the last hour and a half or so, this place has really started to fill in. We've been here for a few hours now. Dancing groups that came by, they're kind of setting up, getting in position. Indigenous dancers, Indian dancers, Mexican folklore groups. We've got, like you mentioned, the hockey. The theme here is very much community and culture. This Lansdowne, of course, being a hub of culture, you can see some of the groups back there. We're about, a 10-minute drive from the airport. So the first stop, this will be the stop where the King can really get up close and personal with people. It'll be one of the stops, maybe the stop, where people get the chance to get as close to a king as many will ever be. I was speaking to some of the people in this crowd, which I got to say, what you can't see perhaps, or the camera might not transmit as well, is that this is packed. This is a farmer's market at times. It is like there's people that just have crowded in here in the last hour. Speaking of some of them, there's your Royal fans, people who are just excited about the Royals in general. There's people who are just really curious, right? I mean, the chance to get up close with the King, obviously interesting. And there's people who maybe came out here and wouldn't have otherwise, but told me in chatting with them that, it was really the opportunity to be part of something that for them felt symbolic in the moment. And that symbolism felt important given, events of the moment right now. We can kind of see the police officers on horseback kind of gearing up behind the camera over there, and everybody here prepared to line up to meet the King. I was speaking with I mentioned it's a farmer's market. That's a cause close to the King's heart, organic farming in particular. I was speaking to some of the vendors who are poised to meet the King. And it was kind of funny because I would say, what do you say to the King, right? You're going to show him some maple syrup. I don't think he's allowed to taste it. Correct me if I'm wrong, but they said, I don't know. What do you say to a king? I'm just going to nod and smile. So some nervousness and a lot of excitement around here.
Fantastic. So firstly, that food looks delicious. I don't know if I'm just absurdly hungry, but what a beautiful looking market that is. You're in a great spot. I hope he does try the maple syrup. And you ask a very good question. What do you say to a king? How do you even prepare for that? What does a successful interaction look like? So as he meets people throughout this visit, we all have that question, what's that like? And so we asked somebody who knows what this is like personally to sort of walk us through this sort of experience. Gillian Crawford runs a sheep farm with her family. And Gillian, you met the King back when he was a prince in 2014. You got to introduce him to part of your flock. I know you're in River John, Nova Scotia. We're about to watch so many Canadians do what you did just about 11 years ago. What were you feeling just before you met then Prince Charles?
Well, excited, of course, and honored to be given the chance to have a chat with him and meet him.
When you started out sheep farming, I suppose it never occurred to you that it would lead to you meeting the king, or did you sense that sort of you had kindred interests there?
No, I don't think anyone thinks they're going to have the chance to meet the king, especially not a sheep farmer in Canada. So it was quite a surprise.
So why did that happen? How is it that you were invited to show him your sheep?
Well, he was coming for various reasons to Canada, but one of the reasons was to launch the Campaign for Wool, of which he is a patron and is still a patron. And it's an international organization, but because this was the first time it was being launched in Canada, he was coming to be part of it. And originally we thought it was going to happen at the Halifax Seaport Market, so we had been invited to take some sheep and be there and meet him there. But then the event got switched to Pictou waterfront. So my husband and daughter went to Halifax Market with sheep, and my son and I went to the Pictou Market, the Pictou waterfront with sheep, and a crew of our friends with some weavers and spinners involved. And it was the launch of the Campaign for Wool, as well as a chance for him to visit Pictou and meet some other people there as well.
And how did it go? How did that day go?
It went very well, very well. A lot of anticipation, a lot of waiting around for all the protocol and things to happen, but it was very, very exciting. I was part of a receiving line with someone from the Wool Growers of Canada, the Campaign for Wool, and another sheep farmer, and he walked through the line and had a little chat with everybody.
Do you remember what you said to him?
Well, I do remember, Adrian, because I wasn't thinking I'd have a chance to say very much at all. I thought it would be a handshake and a hello, but he asked about our farm and what breed of sheep we have on our farm and how big our farm was, and then he asked about our wool and what we do with our wool, and I told him that we have a shop on the farm where we sell all our finished products, and that we have blankets that we sell that are woven in Canada. So he was quite interested, and we had a back and forth conversation, and he wanted to know a bit more about the whole operation. And it was sincere. You know, he looked me in the face, and he answered directly, and I answered him. So it wasn't just a informal conversation. He really was interested in what I was saying, or so I thought, or he gave that impression.
Right, that is such a consistent response we get from people. And as you look at this visit now, what are you thinking?
Well, I'm thinking of all the lucky people, I guess, that do get to meet him. Happy that he's back again in Canada, of course, and because we know he's an interest in farming and agriculture, that's always good to see that he's here, and no doubt we'll connect with some people in that field again during this trip. And it reinforces the connection we have with the monarchy here in Canada. So
how are the sheep
for many reasons, it's good he's coming.
How are the sheep holding up behind you there? I see them sort of being very polite and kind of hanging out.
Well, if you'd come an hour ago, you would have heard a lot of baaing and bleating. But we gave them a little bit of food, and like everybody else, give them some food, and they're quiet. So I think they're behaving very well.
This is an excellent life strategy. Producers use that with me as well. Just throw her some food, and she'll be quiet.
It works. It works. Yeah.
Jillian, thanks very much.
Good.
Appreciate that.
Good. And
take care.
And I hope you have a chance to meet him, Adrian. Thanks, bye.
Wouldn't that be amazing? That would be amazing. Thank you.
Oh, good. Yeah. All right. Thank you.
So here we go. There's Lansdowne Park again. I see a fascinator. That is the first fascinator I have seen today. Oh, and a little baby fascinator going on there. So this is fantastic. People who obviously have planned to be there, some who may have stumbled into the park not realizing what was happening, but had decided to stay anyway. Carolyn, as we look at these pictures, Lansdowne, there's always a story to why places are named certain things. What's the story here?
Oh, yes. Lansdowne Park is named for Governor General Lord Lansdowne. He was Governor General of Canada from 1883 to 1888, and he was the first Governor General to travel on the Canadian Pacific Railway, and he was supposed to drive the last spike, but he had to be back in Ottawa because of the trial of Louis Riel. So a lot of very historic events were happening in the 1880s, and Lord Lansdowne was there for that. And we're also seeing the Aberdeen Pavilion as well, named for another Governor General, Lord Aberdeen, in the 1890s, whose wife, Lady Aberdeen, was famous for her work with the Victorian Order of Nurses and the National Council of Women in Canada.
I love what you know. I love someone who has an area of expertise that you're passionate about as well. So we're watching the hockey players surely getting a little hot there in their helmets and jerseys, and certainly the King's convoy is approaching. I think we have a moment though to take a chance here. I think so. I'd really like to introduce you to someone very quickly, Lila Graham, who just met the King and Queen. Lila is the young woman, the 14-year-old, who handed them flowers. Congratulations to you, Lila. Can I just say,
thank you so much.
Can I just say for Canadians who don't know much about you yet, that I think you're fantastic and you have a huge future. Lila is a young woman who, at the age of 4, started saying, I don't need birthday presents. I want to raise money for food banks instead. How was it that you came to meet the King and Queen?
Well, I received my coronation medal back in March, and they invited me today to give flowers to Her Majesty.
Amazing. And what was it like doing that?
Absolutely incredible. They're so nice, and I was so nervous, obviously, but it was an incredible experience.
Had you planned out what it is you were going to say?
Yeah, me and my parents were rehearsing in the car ride over. I was shaking their hands and making sure I didn't word vomit everywhere.
And so what did they say to you?
Well, I had the flowers in my hand, and he greeted me and he said hello. And then he's like, are those for my wife? And I said, yes. And then he said, thank you so much, and incredible that the medal came in time.
That's great. And you know, Lila, you're one of the youngest people to ever receive that medal. As you and I are talking, Lila, I just want to point out that what people at home are seeing is that the King and Queen have arrived at Lansdowne. So if you bear with me for 1 second, don't go anywhere. We're just going to listen to see if we can hear anything, and then you and I will keep talking, okay? Say, I haven't seen reception quite like this for King Charles in a while. I don't know if it's just the essence of the angle, but it seems pretty enthusiastic. That will certainly make him feel pretty good. While we're watching this, if we just quickly go back to Lila, just for a moment here. Lila, can you tell me something? This matter of when you were 4, you decided that you didn't want birthday presents and you wanted the money to go to food banks instead. You have kept that up, right?
Yeah. Last year we did a big food drive for it, and we raised, in total over the years, we've raised over $4,000 and 3,000 pounds of food.
That's amazing. And this is why you got that coronation medal. You're one of the youngest people to ever get the coronation medal. Do you have big dreams for yourself ahead?
Yeah, I think I'm not exactly sure what I want to do yet, but I think it's going to be something pretty big and exciting.
Well, that is for sure. Nobody doubts that. I hope you have a fantastic time. I hope today you're able to talk about this for a long time to come. And good on you, Lila. Good for you for doing that.
Thank you so much.
You're 14, but that's real leadership. Take care, eh?
Yeah, you too.
Okay. So why don't we let's head back to Lansdowne here. And I'm wondering, just in the name of getting perspective here on this, if we can bring Omar back in for a moment. Omar, what are you hearing that maybe we can't hear? Or what are you seeing that we can't see?
Well, there's two things to bring up. One is you mentioned earlier the point about I've been watching the King's interactions with the people that he stops and talks to, and you're right. I mean, it's hard to tell from over here, but he does seem to spend quite a bit of time having what seems like an authentic conversation with people. Seems to be really engaging with the public really well. On the other side of that, what you're not seeing is that there is, I would say, a pretty small contingent, but there are some people yelling out, "Not our king." There is a small protest contingent here as well. But, you know, as you see the King and the Prime Minister and Ottawa's mayor kind of walk through, they seem to be sort of doing the rounds, shaking hands, which if you look around and see the security on rooftops beyond this everywhere, and given the fact that, you know, Prime Minister Mark Carney is behind us, right? The King is here. It is kind of incredible that people are allowed to even get that close, but obviously you can see just a tremendous amount of security around the King as he makes his way through, and people, you know, who lined up here really early, obviously getting that chance to get up close and personal with the King.
And it's so interesting to look at these pictures. You know, I think about, I think we all still have like a COVID hangover of the way people interacted in the course of the pandemic and not getting too close and not touching each other. And there's still something kind of so refreshing and at the same time so jarring about seeing so many people crowded in together. And I get the impression he likes this. I mean, we can't ever know, but he certainly gives the impression he likes it.
It does seem that way, and I got to say, there's people that have brought flowers, right? Along this route, you can see people that have brought flowers, and I mean, his security detail will not allow him to take them, but you can see, I think you can get a glimpse of that just behind me here, just how social he's being, how much he's getting around. I'll you take a look at that shot for a moment.
Indeed. Oh, someone's...
And so you can see there the Prime Minister and his wife walking into place. This behind me here is where, by the way, everything's going to be happening from the ball hockey, which the King will do the ball drop for, all the cultural presentations. The theme here, of course, diversity and identity. And here at Lansdowne, I mean, this is a cultural hub for this neighborhood. Like I said, first kind of community stop on the way from the airport before all the other stuff and the politics plays a bigger role.
Do you know, Omar, how it is that people were chosen from the market, for example, to be the ones meeting him there today? Like, who are some of the people he's likely to interact with?
Well, we know there have been, you know, beyond this, there's a sort of open area, which is a farmer's market. We don't know if he's going to go there, but there are some select vendors that are inside. Maple syrup is one of them. I was speaking with them. They couldn't tell me how they were chosen to be here, so I don't know what kind of vetting process that went through. But we do know that, like, King Charles is has been very vocal and a proponent for agriculture, organic agriculture in particular. Started his own Dutchy brand of I believe it was a stout. So this has been like something that he's been very engaged with in the past.
Right.
And so a lot of local farmers here from within 100 kilometers of Ottawa that are showcasing their goods for the King today.
He's a wise man. He stopped very carefully at the food. I think that's a good place to be.
Big order from me.
They did tell me that they weren't to offer him anything because he wouldn't be accepting anything for, you know, maybe obvious reasons.
Although Omar, we anticipate that one of the vendors he's going to meet is a Syrian refugee who has a specialty in falafel, and the apparently, as the story goes, he was very interested in having one of his falafels. So, I mean, aren't we all? So we will we'll keep an eye on that.
Definitely from what I was, and maybe this was because the maple syrup vendor was also selling cider. They said there would be no tasting at that particular place.
Fair. Carolyn, what do you make of that scene? Omar is going to go get some folks to talk to, but what do you make of that scene as you watch?
I think this is extraordinary. We're seeing people coming together from a wide variety of backgrounds. We see Canadian flags in that audience, but there's been British flags, Brazilian flags. There are vendors from sharing cuisines from all regions of the world, and it brings back the aura of Queen Elizabeth II's speech in 1973 at the Royal York Hotel in Toronto, where she celebrated Canada as a multicultural country, where different cultures come together and live in harmony with one another, and we're certainly seeing that here at Lansdowne Park.
And part of that as well is the protests. You know, the people shouting, "Not our king." There's a couple signs that have said "taxation without representation." We know from the polling data that there isn't enormous adoration for the royal family here, particularly King Charles. We're expecting some more data, I think, later today or tomorrow, with a sense of whether there's been an uptick in support since the 51st state comments. But what is your sense of his relationship with Canadians and vice versa right now?
Well, certainly there have been protesters at some of his other visits. 2009, for instance, when King Charles, the future King Charles, met with the Black Watch Regiment that he inherited the role of Colonel-in-Chief from the Queen Mother, his grandmother. There were some protesters there as well. Overall, Canadians don't often spend a lot of time thinking about the monarchy or the royal family unless there's a big event like this where we're seeing the king and queen there in a Canadian context.
There's that beautiful maple leaf brooch. You get a better look at it here. It is a big piece of jewelry. It is a striking piece of jewelry.
Yes.
And I feel very lucky to say I've actually held it when we were at Windsor Castle, and they brought it out for us. And one of the astonishing things about that moment, because the Queen had given permission for us to see it, is that the box it is kept in, is this original, frayed, well-handled, barely hanging on little blue box. And when they open it up and you see that brooch, it is like blinding, the diamonds in that brooch.
Well, that's extraordinary.
Yeah,
You're able to
it's
get
amazing.
behind the scenes.
It was amazing.
Oh, we're at the maple syrup.
He should just put a little bottle in his pocket of maple syrup. Oh, see, look, she's got something, a little candy in her hand. There you go. I think he might be bartering for a price there. Yeah, there you go.
Oh, yes.
Aha. Hockey.
We now invite the team captain and His Majesty to the center of the rink for the ceremonial puck drop. Nous invitons les capitaines des équipes et Sa Majesté au centre pour la mise au jeu protocolaire.
This is beautifully rambunctious, frankly, for a Monday afternoon. All right, is it a puck or is it a ball?
The big moment.
It's a puck. Okay, well done. He can't have the maple syrup, but he's taking the puck.
Merci, thank you, Your Majesty.
If you're wondering who is there, some of the people joining him there, former Ottawa Senators, defenseman Chris Phillips, and the teams you've got there. You've got the Association de Hockey Féminin Vallée de Gatineau, and you have the African Hockey Association are there as well. And then you have a hockey player standing right there, Prime Minister Mark Carney, who played hockey for Oxford. You've certainly seen all those hockey references in the Elbows Up campaign commercials. Dollars to donuts. What's going to happen to that hockey puck is that it is going to end up in Windsor Castle, because when the Queen dropped the hockey puck in Vancouver back in 2002, it was signed by Wayne Gretzky and Howie Meeker, and it has been officially archived, and it's at Windsor Castle, and if you ask nicely enough, they will bring it out and show it to you. So that is possibly where that is going as well. So as we watch the King interact here, we're just going to slide over and have a quick chat with Omar again, I think you have a guest.
Yeah, you mentioned rambunctious. Well, I'm with some rambunctious royal fans over here who have been here for a while trying to catch a glimpse of the King. They're taking their eyes off the King to chat with us for a little bit. Jesselyn's holding a sign. Jesselyn, what brings you out here today?
Well, I'm so excited to see the King Charles and Queen Camilla and Prime Minister Carney. I only got a glimpse of them, but I'm still so happy to be here.
At your young age, why is it so important for you to be here?
Well, I want to be able to have this special opportunity when I'm young, just in case when I'm old that I don't get to do this, and how exciting and thrilling it is to be here.
And I understand, Heather Joy, that you're their mom. You're also a teacher. What made you want to take, because they're not in school right now.
Right, yes. Thank you, Ms. Blackburn, for the afternoon off. It's such a historic opportunity to be here and to have the opportunity to welcome King Charles and Queen Camilla. My grandfather was a member of Parliament. He represented the Fraser Valley in BC through the decades, through the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. And he got to meet Queen Elizabeth II several times. And so this is our next generation, and we are grateful for the connections that we have to the monarchy.
I mean, this is symbolic, right? This is largely symbolic, but clearly important enough for you to take the day off school and bring them here and have them witness it. What do you hope your kids take away from this?
Oh, I hope that they sense the unity that it brings, our country and certainly our city. Living in the nation's capital is such a unique opportunity. We've got the Parliament buildings right here, under construction at the moment, but we'll get them there. And just the continuity that the monarchy brings to our constitutional system. I mean, Canada's a very independent country. We do great, but our tradition and heritage comes from the monarchy, and we're grateful.
Is there something important to you about this particular moment as well, the moment that this symbolism comes during?
Yeah, it does speak, I think, to the sovereignty that we are, and the opportunity that we have to see that King Charles and Queen Camilla have prioritized coming to Canada, and the opportunity for him to do the throne speech. It's something I haven't seen in my lifetime, and I'm so thankful he's here to do it.
And listen, I don't want to leave you guys without talking to Declan, because Declan, can I see your sign, buddy? It says, "Crown meets Capital. Hello, Ottawa. Catch our cheer." So what's your cheer? Can we hear it?
Hip hip hooray! The King and Queen are here! Hip hip hooray! The King and Queen are
for talking to us, guys. Appreciate it. As you can see, Adrian, I think just sort of of the kind of families that have come down here to witness this. And one last note, I just got to say, I spoke with some people who used to call UK home, and they said they have never been so close to King and Queen. So there you have it, a variety of people here for a variety of reasons.
Oh, that's fantastic. They are great. I love those folks. Omar, thanks very much. As you can see, the King and Queen have moved inside. King Charles was chatting there a few moments ago with Stephen Guilbeault, the Minister of Canadian Identity and Culture. He's there right now, introducing the King to some more of the people from the market who are all sort of chosen selectively to be there to speak with the King. Carolyn, do you know what would have gone into making these choices of these people?
Chosen in order to be representative of a wide variety of communities. And of course, some will also have personal connections of some kind to King Charles III. He's visited a lot of farmers markets in Canada in recent years. He visited the Byward Market in Ottawa in 2022 and a farmers market in Prince Edward County in 2017. Leading up to the 150th anniversary of Confederation celebrations. King Charles and Queen Camilla are always at ease in these environments, meeting with local people, farmers, artisans, getting to see all of the food and drink on display as well. Camilla's father, Bruce Shand, who was a British Army officer, he was also a wine merchant. So she's also quite interested in all the food and wine that are often on display at these kinds of events.
And the young people are critical here. So as we look, this is inside the horticulture building at Lansdowne Park. Some of the people who are there are with entities like Operation Come Home, for example, which is an organization that works with kids who are find themselves on the street. It offers services to them. It helps them with their education, try to make changes. These are the sorts of things that matter very much to the King. There are entities there that work for literacy. You'll see people from, the Canadian Red Cross. At some point, he's going to, come across a skateboard exhibit, for example. So each person who is there has been sort of selected for what they represent, and that their values sort of align with those of the monarch. And of course, it's the sheep. This is a recurring theme.
Oh yes, the interest in wool and all of these natural handicrafts and traditional arts that the King has been quite interested in.
So the people he has just been talking with there are with, and I think you saw the shirts there, the Canada Agriculture and Food Museum. It's an experimental farm, really, that looks at how open air lab research, if you will, can focus on long-term experiments in climate change and in the integrity of soils, in conservation, everything that he has been talking about years before many others in the world were. He was often mocked for these very conversations back in the 60s and 70s.
Oh yes, that when he introduced a bottle bank for recycling at Buckingham Palace back in the 1970s, that was considered an eccentric idea. Mm-hmm. And when it came to organic gardening, he wasn't just ahead of the curve, perhaps he was the curve with his work at Highgrove House. It's been profiled in the National Geographic.
And this is I think it's one of the best names around. It's the Orchidestra. This is a fantastic group of people who they take kids from the age of 5 all the way up to 18, and sort of music is this recurring theme in their lives, and music is a mechanism to sort of build their lives and build discipline and positive changes. So it's again
wonderful.
another one of these neat organizations.
Can you reach and get all the department? Perfect. And if you can read the scale, it's about to even out. And we're going to see how much lift we can generate with this. So if someone sees the number on the scale, we're about to see it go down, and that means that lift is increasing. So the fan is on. Yeah, exactly. And so you might recognize this fuselage here. It is modeled after a Lancaster. Yeah, and then we've got another one here, which is modeled after the Scale.
Well, I haven't got a clue what's going on here. I think it looks like aviation something. So while we figure that out, we're going to talk with Omar again, who I think you found somebody else to chat with, Omar.
I have, yeah. We're here with Upasana Classical Indian Dance Group. They've been, they just performed in front of the king. How was that? We're with Nikita, Shilpa, I'm sorry, and Savita. How was it performing in front of a king?
It was a surreal experience, honestly. We're very honored to have been invited to represent South Asian dance in front of the king today. It was a great experience.
Shilpa, is there an added, adrenaline nerves about that, high level in audience?
For sure, but it was also just exciting. The crowd was very receptive, lots of cheering, so it wasn't that nerve-wracking.
What does it mean to you, Savita? I've known you in the community in Ottawa for a very long time. You are part of the community, especially in the dance world. What does it mean to be showcased on such a big stage?
It means a lot to me, but also my students who have been with the school for a long time. It's also representing the community and being asked on behalf of the Indian dance community to be performing here today. It's a privilege.
Is it, Nikita, last question to you, but is there, the theme here was diversity and identity. To what degree do you feel that this reflects the diversity of Canada in front of the king?
Yeah, no, I think the South Asian community represents a big portion of the population in Canada, so I think it was really nice that they asked the South Asian group to perform today.
Well, I know you guys just performed. The sun's down now, but it was really warm a little while ago, so I'll let you guys get some refreshments and rest. Thank you so much for talking to me.
Thanks, Omar.
Thank you.
Thanks, Omar. We've just been watching on the right side of the screen the king talking with the delegation from the Canadian Red Cross. What a fundamental part of this country the Red Cross has been there when things are at their worst, and the king certainly understands that history and legacy. One of the things that this team have been talking about there is the recovery efforts and restoration efforts after the wildfires in Jasper, and there is a lot of anxiety about what sort of summer is ahead for wildfires in this country, and what they will all be facing and what communities across Canada will be facing. So that's critical to him as well.
I have some fellow consultants here with me, as well as 2 students from St. Patrick High School, who can explain the BU project.
So to start off, the BU project is an OCSP project, and it's about students who showcase their creativity and identity. Yeah. So we have actually made escape from scratch, which has allowed us to connect with our community and also with our personal identity. About a month, yeah.
So have you learned a lot?
Yes. I love making work. Yeah. And artworks, yeah.
Standing next to the Red Cross, and I do learn some useful things about first aid, in case anybody
I think those are some of the young people associated with the skateboard exhibit. Which is, it's sort of this, they're students from the, what's called the Urban Aboriginal Alternate and the Norman Johnson Alternate. They've sort of come together to form this, I guess, this collective where they help other people in the community. And they make personal skateboards, and then they collaborate with local artists, local Métis artists that are given to then, once the boards are made, to Indigenous youth in Ottawa who need them. and want them. These meetings, Carolyn, as I look at them, I feel like they have meaning for the people who are on the receiving end. What do they mean for the monarchy?
Well, for the monarch, he's having this opportunity to engage with Canadians from all walks of life and forge these really meaningful connections that often people who come to royal events have memories of past royal tours, and there will be people in this crowd who remember seeing Queen Elizabeth II and Prince Philip celebrate Canada Day in 2010, or Queen Elizabeth II's early royal tours. It'll be interesting to see if there are even older people in the crowd who might have been children at that historic 1939 royal tour by King George VI and Queen Elizabeth, later the Queen Mother. So these lifelong meaningful moments are forged through all of these small conversations, and royal walkabouts have been a fixture of the royal schedule for a long time. King George VI and Queen Elizabeth, later the Queen Mother, plunged into a crowd of great war veterans at the National War Memorial. And then from the 1970s forward, Queen Elizabeth II always engaged in royal walkabouts while she was traveling on her various Commonwealth tours and within the United Kingdom. Opportunity for these personal connections.
I don't think I will ever get over the imagery of all these phones everywhere we go. I mean, it is so. I mean, I was thinking about the conclave, the Pope. It's just that the cameras come first, it seems, right?
And there's some members of the royal family who are more selfie-friendly than others.
Yes.
That King Charles III and Queen Camilla are clearly just going with the crowd and being in all these photos. But I've heard Princess Anne isn't as much of a fan of there being a big wall of cameras and would rather not pose for selfies. So it really varies in terms of the members of the royal family and how much they want to be in all of these photos. But everyone in that crowd is wanting to have that photo of that historic moment.
Sure. What do you make of the size of this crowd?
It's a really large and enthusiastic crowd. There were some concerns because it's been years since there was a high-profile royal visit to Canada about what happens if the King and Queen come, but the weather is bad or there isn't the same enthusiasm. And instead, we're seeing a beautiful spring day with the crowds coming out to see the King and Queen. And you can see the King and Queen responding to the energy of the crowd. They're smiling, they're shaking hands. They're clearly very happy to be here.
Indeed. And I think they're a little behind schedule, which is kind of a good sign for their engagement here. Speaking of engaging, Omar, you have just been bolting from one group of people to another, and I think you have more guests.
We're lucky because as they finish their performances or games, they kind of walk right through us and we try to grab them. And we just grabbed Josephine. She's with Ottawa Ice. And so you got to, she plays center usually, but today you're playing goalie. What was it like playing a game with all that pressure?
So I was really hot.
What's that?
It was really hot.
Yeah, I bet it was. Like with all the gear you guys are wearing. How long did you have to prepare for this? Was it, what did it mean to you?
Well, I prepared a lot for it because I was in there practicing a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And then I don't really know how much it means to me.
You're really young. What did it mean to you to play in front of a king? Did that have the symbolism that a lot of people would think it had?
It was really cool.
Yeah? Would you ever forget that? No. And your dad's here with you. How long did you guys have to plan for this and prepare for it?
Then we found out a couple of days ago, but she played net all last year, so we had the gear. So it wasn't too hard to come over here, and obviously it's an honor to play for the Prime Minister and the King and Queen.
You must be a proud papa.
Absolutely, yeah.
What's going through your mind as you're watching your daughter play?
Get the ball. Don't let them score. Same stuff as usual. It's just another game, right?
Just a different venue, different crowd. Thanks so much, Max, Josephine. Thanks so much for chatting with us. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
So as you can see, everybody kind of walks by here after they're done. Some of the dancers we were speaking with said that they were a little bit kind of like, I mean, there's the heat for one thing. There's the costumes. You can see Josephine. They're just geared up to the nines, right? They were saying like it kind of took away from the pressure of playing for a king because they were just so kind of just get through this moment. It is scorching hot out here, I got to say.
I know. Well, we're just not used to it after being frozen solid all winter. I get that. And listen, not all interviews are easy. I gotta love that she says, I don't know what it means to me yet. I mean, it's a perfectly honest answer. She's waiting too little to know. She'll find out one day. She'll figure it out. All right, Omar, thanks very much.
She'll look back on the picture and be like, oh yeah, there was that.
That's right. Oh, yeah, that happened.
All right.
Okay, so Omar is heading back into the crowd while we watch Mark Carney, the Prime Minister, and Stephen Guilbeault operating as tour guides effectively here for the Prime Minister and Queen Camilla. There's Mark Carney's wife, Diana Fox Carney. And as they move still through the market, their next stop will be Rideau Hall, but they're not quite there yet. They've got more people to see. Fantastic.
Stick to one side. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
How often do you play? Can I go? No, it's not a lot of practice. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. How long have we played? For 40 minutes. And you chose just... I started off with a small Great to meet you.
You know, you watch these conversations and you always want to know exactly what are they saying. I mean, they certainly seem to enjoy the music from Orchestra, but we were also watching earlier when they were having that exchange with the maple syrup vendors, and I think, Carolyn, we were saying, I wonder what they're saying. Well, now maybe we can find out. Omar, I think you're with one of the vendors, right?
Yeah, I remember we were talking earlier. I was telling you, like, this is Roxanne Garland of Garland Sugar Shack, and she's the one that I asked, you know, what do you say to a king? And I think your answer to me was like, I don't know.
I don't know what to say to a king and queen, but really, they're professionals. They were so grateful. They actually spoke to more than one vendor. They spoke to all the vendors, the crowd. So they came here. They're asking us about the market because our market is usually on Sundays.
You got to shake his hand.
I got to shake his hand and Queen Camilla's hand.
What was that like? Because you were a little nervous about it last time I talked to you. What did you end up saying anything?
I think Good question. I think I said good afternoon, Your Majesty.
What else do you say, right?
Right? It just like kind of popped into that's what happened. And then they were starting to ask about the farmers market and then our products. So like how many taps we have. So we have about 5,000 taps. And
You get to taste anything?
Well,
You weren't sure-
Camilla asked about she was looking at our maple candies, and I actually offered her one, and she graciously accepted. I was really surprised with that.
And I was curious because you had the wine glasses set up for the maple wine, and it was all ready for a tasting. Doesn't look like it was that time of day yet.
No, so they actually came around the other side. We thought that they were going to be coming around here, so we set up this beautiful display for them. But you know what? It all worked out. They got some maple candies. And then Prime Minister Carney was following them behind as well, and he held up our maple syrup to the crowd, and I could hear some cheering. It all happened at the same time, but it was exhilarating. So Mr. Carney was saying, "I'm promoting your product." So
I was going to say a very brief moment for you and for the family Sugar Shack, but meaningful. What was it mean for you?
I think very meaningful, and the fact that we were asked to promote the farmers market and local producers, agricultural, just to show like what we have to offer, and I think it's great, and just say these are all Canadian products made here.
What will you be telling your kids about this moment when they see the video years down the road?
Well, my nieces and nephews, definitely. I think it's going into a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, so I'm glad we heeded the call.
Thanks so much, Roxanne. There you go. Now you can say you've got royal seal of approval on your maple syrup. Thanks so much. Nice chatting with you. And so just one of the vendors that are kind of lined up along here where the King and Prime Minister got to... I haven't checked in with the falafel stand yet, but I'll get back to you on that.
Excellent. I knew Queen Camilla took one of those candies. I knew it. A smart woman. I think we all would have done the same. Omar, thanks very much. So we have seen the King and Queen head off with the Prime Minister to Rideau Hall. They are heading there for a tree planting and to meet some more people, including the lieutenant governors here in this country. And Carolyn, in terms of what we're about to see at Rideau Hall, in terms of the tree planting, they have done this a lot, planting trees. There's always a message in the tree, though, is there not?
Oh, yes. And for King Charles III, it's particularly meaningful for him because of his interest in the environment and preserving the natural world. So tree plantings at Rideau Hall go back to the time of Queen Victoria's son, the Duke of Connaught, who was the Governor General during the First World War. And so there have been many trees planted there, oaks, maples, and we're going to see a blue beech tree being planted at the ceremony at Rideau Hall.
And so the blue beech, as I understand it, I mean it's one of these trees that I think would have been chosen by the Canadians, but chosen for a reason, right? Chosen because it connects with the values of the monarch.
Well, it's seen as a symbol of steadfastness and tolerance and inclusion, and it's also a tree that thrives in the shade and thrives in the sun. So there is a sense of standing up to all conditions with the planting of this tree. And for King Charles III, of course, it is very meaningful to get to contribute to Canada's natural world.
See, the symbolism is everywhere. It's everywhere if you sort of gently pull it apart. And I think let's keep an eye on something when the king plants a tree. I mean, firstly, I think the tree's already been planted. So you will see them with a spade and some dirt, but effectively the tree is in the ground. But as I understand it, he has a little ritual, which is that he likes to either touch the trunk or sort of touch a branch, right?
Yes, he likes to put his hands on the tree itself and have that personal connection with the tree that he has just planted. It's interesting that earlier in his public life, there were jokes that were made about the Prince of Wales talking to his plants. And now there's been some studies done that having a sort of calm, nice environment environment in the garden, can help the flowers grow and provide, a very, healing environment for those who are there. So as with the interest in organic farming, some of the practices that were seen as a little eccentric early in Prince Charles's career in public life are now seen as rather prescient in 2025.
Okay, it's good advice for all of us. There's more still to come, obviously, with the King and Queen now on to their next events on this historic day in Ottawa.
From Lansdowne Park, the royal couple is heading north to the Governor General's official residence at Rideau Hall. When they arrive, they will meet with lieutenant governors and territorial commissioners, and the King and Queen will take part in a tree planting ceremony. His Majesty will then hold audiences with the Governor General and Prime Minister. After that, Queen Camilla will be sworn in as a member of the Canadian Privy Council, so she can provide formal advice to the King in his role as King of Canada.
So we will be speaking with people today, tonight, and tomorrow who just met the King and Queen. But our next guest probably wins the prize for the most unique experience with the now King Charles.
This video is from north of the Arctic Circle in 1975, when Canadian diver Joe McGuinness went scuba diving under the ice of the Northwest Passage with the future king. After about a half hour, Charles emerged from the freezing water full of good humor.
It's very interesting indeed, I must say. Bloody cold. Can I give me that? What?
That's happened to.
Well, I tell you, we put the air in here, you see, and if you now do an amazing...
You can see why the British media at the time called him Action Man. So the diver, the now king, was with is Joe McGuinness. Joe now lives in Toronto. That's where he joins us today. Joe, how fantastic to look at those images of your dive with then Prince Charles. Can you just take us back to that moment and talk about what that was like?
Well, it was a life-changing event for me. I was 38, he was 26. I had been asked by the government to arrange the dive, and I was, to be honest, very concerned because of the risks and the uncertainty about his ability. He'd never dived under the ice before. He was not familiar with the suit, but he was determined.
So I see you standing there, Joe. I feel like you have something you want to show us.
I have something I want to show you. First of all, this is the suit that he wore. This is 50 years ago. He wore this suit, and these gloves were important because the coldest part of the diver is the hands and the face, and he also wore this shield for his face to protect the skin from frostbite. Again, he was so fascinated with, there were three reasons why he wanted to go. First, he was intensely curious about the edge of the known world, which it was going under the ice. And he also wanted to test himself to see if he had the right bright stuff to do this. And then he had this sense, he told me, about wanting to connect. And it was interesting in the previous discussion about the Blue Bee waters that the 19th century British sailors had sailed through in the search for the Northwest Passage. So he was determined to go, and we made a 30-minute dive. It started very gently. He had some problems with the suit because he was having difficulty in balancing the air in, air out. He bumped his head against the ice a couple of times, but he was very calm. He had this kind of royal resolve to make sure that he would solve the problems very quietly. And of course, when you're underwater, you can't you can't talk. So the only way I could really discern how he was doing was to see the air bubbles coming out of his regulator, to look at his eyes, and to watch the body language. And his eyes were locked onto mine, and he was very calm and sorted it out. And so we headed west we went west, and the first thing we saw was this stalactite of ice. It looked like an icicle hanging from the undersurface of the ice. And keep in mind that the ice was a fathom thick. And inside the stalactite were small creatures, amphipods, and he looked at them, and there was this sense for me of a kind of reciprocity. He was totally committed to trying to understand what was going on with these ice lovers living inside the ice. And it was almost as if he was a man with 3 eyes, 2 in his head and 1 in his heart. And that brings us back to this, what you just mentioned about the blue beech tree and his love of the natural world. So we got to this shore fast ice, and here is where the polar pack crushes up against the shore, and big blocks are formed, and they're twisted and have bizarre shapes, and they confirm the power of the ice to press against a wooden ship and break through the hull and sink the ship. And this is what he was interested in trying to find out more about. So it was an extraordinary experience to be with him and watch the intensity of his attention to the environment. And
Joe,
I have to tell you, sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, just at the end of the dive, I decided, I knew he had a sense of levity, so I wanted to try it. And so I got him to stay in one position, and I ducked down and picked up 2 objects that I had put on the seafloor on a practice dive. And I'm going to show you now.
Oh, the
I had a bowler hat and an umbrella. And at first, when I saw him, his eyes went wide, and I thought, oh my God, he thinks I've gone crazy. But no, I heard laughter. I heard this laughter in the water, this and then I thought, oh my gosh, he's going to swallow the Arctic Ocean. But no, he got into the spirit of the time. And he took the hat off, took the bowler hat off, and then the umbrella. And I watched him as he headed up towards the ice hole, looking like Mary Poppins in the Flying Nanny scene. And then, as you saw in the video, he came outside the tent and had this extraordinary experience, again, of levity. A man really in charge of the moment, making fun of himself and having just a good time because of the dive and the success.
What an extraordinary experience. Here I was thinking that you were about to tell me about what it was like for him, but I feel like the experience you had was equally as precious, and good on you. That is fantastic. And thank you for the show and tell today. Those are great.
Well,
that is
a great pleasure, and it's been fun listening to your show and what you're doing at the great celebration of the moment of the folks in Ottawa. So
indeed,
it's been an honor to be a part of this.
Joe McGinnis, thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
You're all watching our special coverage today of the arrival of King Charles and Queen Camilla to Ottawa. You see the Governor General and her husband Whit Fraser awaiting their arrival at Rideau Hall any second now. They've already had a very busy day. And as they arrive at Rideau Hall, when we talk about tree planting, you know that is something King Charles is pretty good at.
An environmentalist, Charles once said, "All I really long for is to plant trees." And on several of his visits to Canada, he's done exactly that. It's a royal tradition that stretches back centuries. When he visited Halifax in 2009, he planted an oak in the shadow of one planted by his grandfather, King George VI, 70 years before. Some read meaning into the choice of tree. In 2022, the first trip after the COVID-19 pandemic, and on an afternoon focused on issues of reconciliation and sustainability, Charles planted a silk lilac tree, a sign of renewal.
There you go. The umbrellas are up. As Joe McGinnis talked about bringing that umbrella up in the Arctic in the 70s, it is up again because, of course, it is. This is Canada. So there they are at Rideau Hall. And we know that as we were chatting with Catherine Cullen, who was at the airport, and we said that she was going to hopscotch her way over to Rideau Hall, she's done just that. I fear poor Catherine might be in the rain, because it is kind of coming down. Are you okay, Catherine?
Oh, I'm fine, Adrian. It's impressive. We might get a sunburn and drenched in the same day. But hey, it's Canada. We can't complain. And the really striking thing, I would say, Adrian, I don't know what the shot looks like right now, but there really are a number of people who have come out here to Rideau Hall to see the King and Queen in this ceremonial tree planting. And I know there was a little bit of anxiety, I think, amongst some Canadian officials in terms of whether or not Canadians would show up. They have today.
That's fantastic. You know, I'm keeping an eye on that crowd, Catherine. There are some women there who I'm hoping we will get a chance to see. They're called, well, it sounds like a strange name, but they became known as the Coronation Girls because there was a group of 50 teenage girls in 1953 who were chosen for a 7-week tour of the UK to go see the Queen's coronation. It was a life-changing trip. They have stayed in contact. They met the King last year. Some of them, who there's 33 left, and some are there today, and they hope to see him again. There you go. Did you catch it? Did you catch him giving the tree a little handshake there? That's his hallmark. Oh, have to water it, although the rain will do a pretty good job of that. Okay, so he's heading over to meet some of the people who are there to greet him. So curious to see who's in that crowd.
We need to keep it so we can get that. Yeah, I know.
It's almost as chaotic as Lansdowne Park.
Sarah, what's our next
Honored to meet you, my friend. Thank you, sir.
We have to get these guys behind us a bit of shot as well.
Yeah, okay.
Let's all move back.
It's raining and it's sunny because yes, it's spring in Canada.
Thank you, Carl.
Behind you. Right behind Victoria.
If the coronation girls are in there somewhere, I think we'll have to know. We'll find out later tonight. I'll text them to see if they had a chance to meet with him. If we don't see them here.
The weather was a bit erratic on Coronation Day back in 1953 as well.
So they'll be used to that.
Oh yes.
Oh no. That's just a turkey. You know, thanks, turkey. I just, you know, this is a funny country sometimes.
Black, where's the group we're going to see?
They're all behind you on the tree. There's the 100-year-olds. And you need to round that way. We're going to go down to where the people have been introduced.
Your Majesty. Your Majesty. Jack, do you want some water? It's coffee. It's from me. Yeah.
Collectively go that way. We'll need to go round to back.
So as a very short person who often can't see past people's backs, I feel very at home looking at this scene here. This is a lot more crowded than I think even they perhaps anticipated. Catherine Cullen, what after they finish meeting people here in the crowds, do you know what's next?
Yeah, I mean, they have quite a few things on their agenda here at Rideau Hall. One thing I will just note, Adrian, I'm not sure just how much perspective you have from those back of the head shots, but there are quite a number of people. There are barricades that stretch all around this section of the garden in Rideau Hall, so quite a number of people who came out to catch a glimpse of the king. He does, and I can see they're heading back towards Rideau Hall now, so unfortunately some of those glimpses will have been from a...
Catherine, they're actually heading to meet a select group of people, including those women I was telling you about. I caught a glimpse of them in the front row, the coronation
Singing.
girls, and there they are right now. Let's have a listen.
Let me move the query back.
That was God Save the Queen, and that was a moment. Sorry, I'm so used to saying that. God Save the King. And that was a moment. I cannot tell you what that interaction, that brief interaction, will mean to those three women. They were united more than 70 years ago over the coronation of a young queen, and they became friends for life. They taught each other about life and death. They mourned the queen together. They mourned each other when they lost friends. And when they met with the king in Buckingham Palace more than a year or so ago, they had the most beautiful conversation. He told them about, he remembered his mother, the Queen, practicing wearing the crown at bath time when it was time to give Anne and Charles a bath because it was so heavy. He talked to them like he would to an older aunt. And that meant a lot, and this will mean tons.
Okay, we're going to quickly go. Can you see?
Security response.
I'm the director.
Oh, no? Thank you.
She sat and said it in the morning. Yes, I'm looking at your
Thank you. Nice to meet you.
So the people you're seeing here are from what's known as the King's Trust charity. It used to be known as the Prince's Trust. This is fundamental, is it not, Carolyn, to some of his charitable work?
Oh, yes. As Prince of Wales, he took his severance pay from the Navy and founded the Prince's Trust at the time of his mother, Queen Elizabeth II's Silver Jubilee in 1977, and then the Prince's Charities in Canada, which became the Prince's Trust, and then the King's Trust, have sponsored all sorts of different programs, from the preservation of the Inuktitut language to providing training for veterans who want to start their own businesses. So these connections between the monarchy and veterans and Indigenous peoples and young people. There's also youth employment training programs that they've all been supported through the King's Trust.
That's great. I wonder where the turkey went. Maybe just passing through. The man in the glasses, who you can see there, his name is Doug Aerosmith. He's a documentary filmmaker who has been working hard to keep some of Canada's history whole in terms of the story of the Coronation Girls. He was afraid it would be lost to time and failing memories, and so he spent the last couple of years trying to bring it together. It's a lovely story. Catherine Cullen is back with us again. Catherine, I think we're sort of rounding out the day for them. Can you give us a sense of what's ahead?
Yes. Well, that's right. And there is still, for the King, an audience with the Prime Minister, an audience with the Governor General, the swearing in of Her Majesty the Queen to the King's Privy Council of Canada, which would allow Queen Camilla to formally give advice to King Charles in his role as the King of Canada, as well as the signing of the Golden Book, which Canadian Heritage describes as a treasured collection of visitors' signatures that's preserved in the Library of Parliament. I have to tell you, Adrian, I didn't know about this particular detail, and it is something I'm curious to learn more about, what kind of signatures we would find in that book and the special place in which it is kept in the nation's capital, as well as a photo with the vice-regal community. The lieutenant governors for the various provinces are here today to meet with the King as well. So,
Catherine, these are the people, by the way, I know you can't see the shot, but these are the people that the King and Queen are greeting right now, the lieutenant governors.
Yes, who have all come here today to be a part of this particular day, which again it's just striking the meaning that all of these Canadian symbols. This is something that would be familiar from any number of royal visits, but of course, Adrian, the context now when we are thinking about Canadian sovereignty, when we are thinking about what makes Canada different from the United States, one of the constitutional experts I was speaking to for the House this week was saying there has been an allure in Canada's past looking at the presidential system in the United States, and some people saying, well, do we really have the ideal system? And yet we see that our democracy is standing strong at this moment, and people are rallying around our institutions. Now, we should say that's not universal. Part of the visit of the King to this country is stirring up sentiments among some about the extent to which these institutions really do represent us accurately, but they are nonetheless the institutions that make us uniquely Canadian at this moment. And so all of the symbols, everything from the puck, yes, Adrian, I did notice it was a puck drop, to the maple syrup, to the RCMP, to the lieutenant governors, all of this speaking to the essence of part of how we look at ourselves as Canadians, and giving people an opportunity to think a little bit more about our institutions, certainly our institutions of government, which will be front and center tomorrow during the speech from the throne held in the Senate.
And when you talk about front and center tomorrow, are you anticipating any expressions of displeasure to be on display tomorrow? Because not everyone who's a member of Parliament necessarily is supportive of the idea of the king as head of state.
Well, and the Bloc Québécois have said that they will not attend the speech from the throne. That's not specifically about the presence of the monarch. It is something that they regularly do not do, is choose not to attend this particular institution. They have also promised to put forward a private member's bill, which would remove the requirement to swear an allegiance to the king, to Canada's sovereign, although we should say that's been attempted before and it hasn't really gotten off the ground. I don't expect that we will see anything in that regard, although if politics in the last year or so has taught me anything, Adrian, don't make predictions. That's a terrible idea. We are in the time of the unexpected, but it's not what I anticipate. Again, I think because this moment, even for some people who might not traditionally have been so enthusiastic about some of the trappings of the monarchy, I think people do appreciate this expression, moments where there's an expression of nationhood and an expression of our Canadianness, even though they may not necessarily feel, compelled to come out here to the grounds of Rideau Hall, for instance. Certainly what the Prime Minister is banking on is that people will see a resonance here that is meaningful to them as Canada tries to chart a course forward, because while the King himself may not be somebody who speaks in explicitly political terms, this is nonetheless a political moment, and a political moment for this government too. I mean, Mark Carney has really leaned into the connections that Canada has, yes, certainly with Britain, also with France, visiting Iqaluit, talking about Canada's Indigenous roots, to think both about Canada's history and what the course forward looks like at this time. Of challenge, and we talk about it in the big picture so often, Adrian, but of course it's very visceral for people. It looks like sometimes worries about keeping your job or the price of groceries and all of those sort of quotidian concerns are tied up in this moment of pageantry and these expressions of friendliness. The two things are not entirely distinct.
And for a visit that is so formal, it's the informality of some of these moments that will really connect with a lot of people, I think. Dropping that puck or laughing about, maple syrup candy. These are the sort of the intangibles, I think, that may end up being lasting things.
Yeah, I will say, Adrian, I can hear singing again starting. I don't know if we want to listen in for a moment.
Sure.
I think the crowd has once again begun to sing.
Straight. Go the other side of the path.
Yeah. So when they turn around, we'll move to this, and then we'll catch it. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Another spontaneous O Canada, a round of applause, both perhaps for the Royals and for the anthem, for the moment.
Well done.
The political context is interesting too, Adrian, and I hope nobody at home sort of tenses up as I say the word politics. But we talk about national unity in the context of the United States, but it's very relevant in this country right now as well. When we see the discussion happening in Alberta in terms of Albertan secession, the possibility of a referendum there, and it all goes back to this question of what it means to be Canadian, why we want to be here or why we don't, how we speak to one another. And again, while the travels of the King may seem very far removed from the day-to-day concerns of Canadians, these questions about our institutions, how we are represented, what our ambitions are, how we speak to one another, where we find common ground, all of these things are meaningful pieces of these discussions, which will not end, obviously, by any stretch of the imagination after the speech from the throne or after the King and Queen return to the UK. These are conversations that are ongoing in this country, and we are looking at an inflection point right now that is going to help shape the discussion going forward.
And Catherine, if I may, for people who may not have heard you say it before, when you spoke with the U.S. Ambassador to Canada, Pete Hoekstra, about this visit, because let's not kid ourselves, there is an ambition, undeniably, that someone in the White House will be watching this visit, watching the throne speech, and come away perhaps with a sense of Canada is united and strong, or whatever the intention is. That would be the reward for the visit, but the risk for the visit would be what? What's your impression from the U.S. Ambassador?
Well, I mean, here's what I would say. The message from the U.S. Ambassador was, yes, we know you're trying to send a message with the King's visit. He said to me, there are easier ways to send a message. In his words, if Carney wants to send a message, he can call up me. There are easier ways to do this. When it comes to the 51st state, move on. Canadians need to move on from this. It's over. Get over it. Now, there are a bunch of asterisks that I would apply to that, Adrian. The ambassador, I did ask him at the beginning of our conversation, has Donald Trump said to you it's over? You have said multiple times this conversation about the 51st state is done. Has he said to you, we're done with this, we're not going to talk about it anymore? The ambassador said, no, but I saw what happened in the White House. I saw the conversation between the president and the prime minister. Mark Carney has said, never. Okay, fine. It's time to move on. It's time to talk about the future of our relationship. And it is worth noting, Adrian, that there are negotiations quietly underway. We know Dominic LeBlanc, responsible for intergovernmental affairs, who's taken on this responsibility for the Canada-U.S. relationship, was in Washington, D.C. just last week, meeting with some of his American counterparts. These things are happening very quietly. The ambassador did not seem to have the specifics about the nature of those negotiations. Are we talking about how we're going to talk, or are we actually getting down to talks? That remains to be seen. But things are progressing on that front. Canada is trying to navigate a particular type of relationship with the United States, yes, about our economy and about trade, but also about how we move forward on the defense front. So all of that is happening. And then there is sort of let's call it the visceral or the emotional side of the debate, where Donald Trump's man in Canada is basically saying, hey, guys, get over it. Right. I don't know to what extent Canadians are going to be receptive to that message. I think in some ways this is the response to that message. If everybody would just like to move on, great. But I think it's fair to say that some Canadians are feeling a little affronted by some of this talk and the suggestion that our border is just an imaginary line. And the mere fact of this visit speaks to the desire of some Canadians, and certainly amongst the political class, to express our nationhood and not just get over it, but maybe take a minute and think about what we stand for and try to reflect out to the world what we stand for.
Catherine, thank you. Excellent. On the right side of the frame, Catherine, that you can't see, people are taking pictures of the shovel now. So they're hanging on to whatever they can of this visit. Carolyn, we are, for this day, getting close. We're not there yet, but we're getting close to the end of the official program for this day. And I'm curious, as you've watched it, we knew effectively what would happen, sort of almost minute by minute. But did you see something that you didn't see coming?
Well, aside from the turkey crossing the lawn there at Rideau Hall, and all the changes in weather we've experienced today, from the sunshine to the pouring rain, something that we've seen during such a brief tour is King Charles III and Queen Camilla taking the time to speak to so many individual Canadians. A tour like this, it seems as though it's all official ceremonies, but there have been a lot of personal moments there. Meeting with the coronation girls who traveled in 1953 for a multi-week trip to the UK, sponsored by Garfield Weston, for young women who were going to be future leaders of tomorrow. So there have been a lot of personal moments, and we've seen such enthusiasm sometimes with events such as this. Queen Elizabeth II's former secretary, Tommy Lassell, sometimes wondered if people were coming out on, for instance, the 1947 South Africa tour because of enthusiasm for the monarchy or simply because the circus has come to town and people want to see the events that are taking place. But the spontaneous singing of God Save the King and O Canada there in the rain at Rideau Hall shows the degree to which the monarch is able to act as a unifying force, as the personification of the state, bringing Canadians together in a patriotic moment that Canada's sovereignty was threatened, and we see Canadians all coming together at this royal visit, taking pride in being Canadian and in Canada's unique political system and history.
It's interesting because I think we're all well aware that the numbers that you saw at Lansdowne Park and the people at Rideau Hall, that's not representative of the entire country. It'll be interesting tomorrow to see who shows up, how many people show up for the parade as that magnificent landau takes the King and Queen to the Senate just over my right here for the throne speech. Past visits, we have seen tens of thousands of people on the street. Will that happen here in Ottawa? Perhaps not. We are in a different era. The enthusiasm you see here may not necessarily be reflected in the data of how people feel. We're going to get some more of those numbers later, but it's these intangible things, this imagery, the people going home with smiles on their faces and funny stories to tell that they will then pass on that seem to have some impact. As we, at this moment, head to break, what would you tell the King about Canada? The National set out with that question. Here's some of the answers we got.
What would we tell the King about Canada today? Well, that's a good question. To speak up against you-know-who. It's gotten like you don't want to say his name, almost.
I'm from Detroit, and I love Canada. Keep it separate and keep it special, and that's my opinion. Thank you very much.